I think we're all anxious for the American economy to recover. The sooner the better, and so I'm always looking for optimistic indications of that. On the surface, the 539,000 number looks positive compared to past months, but when you drill down in there, it looks like the news is a little more sobering. Tell us a little more about the private sector payroll employment at 611,000. It's down slightly from last month, but again, it's declined. It's a loss of these jobs, so we haven't hit the bottom of the well yet. Can you put that in perspective?
I'm sure. I suppose I'd say a job loss of 611,000 is a large job loss, and it only looks slightly encouraging because the job loss has been so high the last number of months. But it's still a very large job loss, and it's still very widespread. So the pattern of job loss really hasn't changed.
Yeah, that's what I sense too. Deputy Commissioner Rones, government jobs are growing, 70-some thousand jobs. Is that attributable to census hiring?
The increase in the temporary census hiring was 63,000, so that really accounts for the vast majority of the increase in government.
Trying to, again, I always look at our federal budget, which is running huge deficits, but my worry is that we continue to mask the true deficit numbers. Just a couple months ago in January, top administration officials claimed that the stimulus plan would keep the unemployment rate at or below 8% for this year. Obviously, we're at a much higher level already, 8.9%. Any projection on what that will be for the entire year? Deputy Commissioner Rones.
Well, as you know, we don't do projections. Basically, we know now that we're at 8.9% already in April, so that certainly puts that number in perspective.
Yeah. JEC, we're fortunate this committee. We do have a lot of experts come before us, some of the best and brightest. Chairman of the Economic Advisors, Chairman Romer, very sharp, was before the committee here recently. She cited a 150,000 job creation figure in her testimony before this committee related to the stimulus. Do your numbers substantiate that claim, Commissioner Hall?
There's no way for us to connect job change with stimulus. We just don't do that sort of work.
What indicators would you be looking for on that? Because obviously we want to see jobs created in this country. You know, we want to know when we're touching the bottom of the well. Your numbers, you can't do it. The numbers don't justify it at this point.
Right. Yeah, and particularly because we're in such a period of such significant job loss, it would be very hard to sort of parse out sort of what would the job loss be if it weren't for something else going on. I will say, though, for us to see improvement, and certainly improvement in the unemployment rate, we're going to have to see not only the job loss moderate, but we're going to have to see the job loss eventually stop, and we start to see some job growth before we see the unemployment rate start to level off and then eventually decline.
I think consumer confidence is an important measure. The uptick in consumer spending was good in the first quarter. Two questions. It appears like the biggest uptick, and Commissioner Rones, Deputy Commissioner Rones, biggest uptick was in January and February. Some attribute that to IRS tax refund checks getting back into the households and people doing it. The stimulus tax incentives that equate to $1.10 a year, or a day, excuse me, went into effect in April. Is there any evidence yet in these this data that is having an impact, consumer spending? First, what do you attribute the first quarter to? Secondly, do you see any uptick, any measurement, any change because of the Obama tax cuts?
Well, as Commissioner Hall said, it's really difficult for us to take that one single factor and somehow disentangle that from all the other things going on in the economy, right now we're still seeing rapid job loss despite any efforts. We still have 600,000 private sector job loss. Again, would it have been worse but for the stimulus? We can't really know that.
Great. And the uptick in consumer spending in January and February?
Again, that's one of the few positive signs that we have. Any money that goes into consumers' pockets has to be helpful, and so I'm sure that that's part of what's going on with consumer confidence and a little bump in.
But I guess my question is, since the stimulus making work pay credit, the $1.10 a day, didn't start till April, what's the reasons for January and February?
Again, it's hard for us to be sure. The surveys seem to indicate that there's some increase in consumer confidence. I'm not exactly sure why that is. I mean, certainly in our employment figures, there hasn't been a lot of positive news over that period.
Thank you. And before the chairwoman attributes it to the election of the new president, let me just say I respectfully disagree.